Welcome students to the concept of valuation. Today we are going to talk about valuation of bonds and shares. You might be wondering why we are talking about valuation of bonds and shares, or why the perspective on bonds and shares, or what valuation has got to do with respect to bonds and shares. Now, let us deal with the issues one by one. Let us answer the questions one by one. You start a business, right? You raise money, which is called as capital in financial terms. Money is raised from two different sources: own sources and borrowed capital. Now this borrowed capital is again in the form of shares, debentures, bonds, or loans. Now, why do we raise this money? We raise this money, or we raise this capital to do business. Why do we do business? Either to make profits or to increase the wealth of shareholders. You are getting capital Say for example, you have raised 100 crores to do business. Now, this 100 crores, what is the worth of this 100 crores, right? This worth, when it is quantified, it becomes value. Now, in other words, what is the value of 100 crores is that you can do business worth, say, 300 crores, including profits, including gross profits. That means the capital that you have raised to the extent of 100 crores is having a worth of 300 crores. Now this 100 crores has to be returned back to the people from whom you have bought. Now, how much money can be returned in a certain time frame? Of course, you can't take out 100 crores instantly from the business. 100 crores instantly from the business cannot be taken away. So what do? You split this return amount, the amount to be returned back, in the form of, say, maybe dividends, or in the form of interest. Of course, this money should also include the principal amount that you have received. Now, how much principal should be given back, or for that matter, how much dividend or interest should be given back, depends upon the concept of time value of money. Say, for example, you are returning principal plus interest, say for example 5,000 rupees every year to every shareholder, right, or every debenture holder. So this 5,000 rupees every year, every shareholder is determined by the valuation of cash flows. Of course, the money that is going out is what we call it as cash outflow. Now, how much money should be given back is dependent on the valuation of cash flows. Hence, the need for study of cash flows. I hope the whole concept of what we wanted to talk about, why we are talking about since yesterday, about the concept of the valuation, right? Why we are discussing all these things is dependent on what? Dependent on the valuation models. Now, coming back to the concept of valuation, put it simply, what is valuation? Valuation is the process that links risks and returns to determine the worth of an asset, how much this asset is worth. Here we can talk in terms of the asset can be capital that you have raised, right? What do you mean by risk? Risks are costs, returns are maybe profits, right? So valuation is a process that links costs and profits to determine the worth of an asset. Now, what are the key inputs to the valuation process? Like we discussed, the key inputs are expected returns in terms of cash flows, together with the timing, key important word, together with important, that is timing. This valuation is dependent on cash flows and their timing, and also risk in terms of required return. The amount that is to be returned is the cost that you are going to bear when you are doing valuation. Right? Now, there's a basic model, valuation model of whatever money you are raising, that is asset you are raising at time t0. V is equal to a1 upon 1 plus k raised to 1 plus a2 plus upon 1 plus k raised to 2 plus up to n. What is V? V is value of an asset, security at time 0. Here, time is 0, that is at the start of the business. Time 0 means at the start of business. AN refers to cash flow streams expected at the end of the year T, or at the end of the year N. Yeah, it should be N, right? Every year N is what? N is, for first year it is 1, for second it is 2, up till what? This N refers to the economic value of an asset. Say, if for example you are talking in terms of valuation of the returns of from plant and machinery, right? So plant and machinery has definitely economic life, right? Economic life, that is, you know that economic life refers to that life within which the output, the stated output is derived. That is what we call it as economic life of an asset. Now, depending upon the economic life wherein the output is determined, you calculate the economic value of an asset. Now, economic value of an asset in terms of plant and machinery means what? How much is the going to be the output? Of course, if you're talking in terms of production, it is measured in terms of quantity, right? But in terms of finance, this quantity is converted into the value of the production. As part of financial management, we are concerned with this value of the output that is going to be derived from the asset, that is the plant and machinery. So for every year, how much is going to be the cash flow is determined by this formula. V at time 0 is equal to A1 upon 1 plus K, where K is what? K is the required capitalization or discount rate. How much money should we be getting every year? That is what we call it as required capitalization or discount rate. Supposing, for example, you have started business on 1st of January, you are getting returns on 31st of December. The worth or the value of the rupee at the start of the year is definitely going to be more than value of rupee at the end of 31st December. Now why? This has undergone a process called as time value of money. Now if you want money, the same money to be same at the end of the year, the percentage by which the amount has reduced, this one, right? This means this money is less than this money, or in other words, this money is more than this money. The percentage by which the value of money is reduced, if you add to that, then we can say that this money, that is the present value, is equal to future value plus I. Right? Whatever money, this one, is what we call it as time value of money concept. Right? So, sorry, this is minus, not plus. This, it should be minus here, because here we are talking in terms of the rupee, that is the present value, minus I. Or in other words, if you want to talk about the future value of money, present value plus I, this is what we call it as discount rate. Okay? Now, going further, we are talking about the money that is to be raised via bonds, via debentures, via shares, okay, via shares. So how do you value that? How do you value that money? That money can be valued by using certain formulas. Now what are debentures? Debentures are long-term debt instruments. What are they? Debt instruments to raise large sums of money, right? Large sums of money. These are debt instruments. Means, what is debt? Debt is associated with the interest concept. That is, you have to return the money along with interest. Have to. Debt is what? Debt is a contract to return money after certain period of time. With interest. So these are debt instruments. Bond is a debt instrument. Now there are certain terms that are associated with bonds. One is par value. Par value is value on the face of bond. Supposing you have raised capital and issued a bond, an agreement, contract. that I have accepted 500 rupees from you today, that is as on 1st of Jan, and I'll be giving this money back after 5 years, right, at a certain rate of interest, and that amount might be definitely more than 500 rupees, right? So this par value is value on the face of bond. How much is the value of the bond? 500 rupees. What is the coupon rate? Coupon rate is the interest that you have specified interest rate available on a security, that is bond. What is maturity period? Maturity period is 5 years. Premium. This bond definitely, the worth having 500 rupees is going to become more than 500 rupees. And if this bond is selling higher than this, then we can call it as premium. If it is selling less, then means it's selling at a discount. So whatever difference that you receive, that is more than 500, this more than 500 is what we call it as yield to maturity, rate of return an investor earns on a bond held till maturity. So these are few terms, technical terms that are associated with bonds. Now, how do you calculate that? B is equal to, what is B? Value of bond at time 0, that is at start. I is annual interest paid. N is number of years. M is par value or maturity value. And KD is required rate of return. Summation at time 1. Again, same. This equation is more or less similar to the earlier equation that we had studied, that is the basic valuation model that we had studied over there. So this is to just have a brief understanding about how a bond is calculated, value of bond is calculated. Similarly, preference shares, these are the shares that are issued to the promoters of the company, right? After promoters, the first stakeholders are preference shareholders. That is, apart from promoters' money, some more people invest the money at the beginning. Those are called as preference shareholders. That also is, valuation is derived. Value of V, where V is equal to value of shares. DP is equal to dividend or share expected at the end of year T. KP is required rate of return. We have a formula for ordinary shares also. Now, why we, again coming back to the question of why we are talking about these things, that is bond, debentures or shares, is because here we have decided to raise capital, right? We have decided to raise capital, and these are the methods or forms of raising capital. So how much dividend should be paid back, or how much interest should be paid back after certain time period, is dependent on the valuation of cash flows. You have to return money that you have raised, and at what rate you will be returning the money, say within first year, second year, third year, or 10 years down the line, depends upon the concept of time value of money, and this time value of money depends upon cash flows, and these cash flows, the quantum of cash flows depend on valuation. Hence, the concept of valuation assumes critical and crucial significance in financial management. And that is the reason why we are talking about valuation of bonds and shares. That's all for now. Take care.